Hello and welcome to Day One Patch Podcast, episode 509. We think we may never know. It might be off forever, Matt.
I have the records.
You keep telling me that, but
I have every episode.
I'd like to see the paperwork on that one.
Actually, I shared my screen and showed you last week.
You shared your screen.
Yeah, remember I showed you my archive library of all of our episodes?
Don't remember. No one's sharing no screen.
Oh, frick. Here we go.
Wow. Okay, the microphone stand, the microphone suspension shock mount for the Electro Voice RE20 is $234 Canadian.
I was going to say $250. That's pretty good then. That's a good deal.
Wow. It's just metal and some rubber bands.
Yes, but it's specifically made by whoever makes the Electro Voice.
Oh my God.
Which is Shure, I think, right?
No, Electro Voice is their own thing.
You could probably just get a shock mount that works with it.
No, I don't do that, Matt.
Well, there you go. Yeah, no, hang on. You can't. I'm surprised that you're shocked at the prices then.
That's a lot of money.
But like you're going for the most expensive. You know what I mean?
I don't have to, yeah.
I mean, like I just went for this Elgato. I don't know if I would, like if this Elgato mic left, I don't know if I would leave Elgato or if I would stay. No, it's not that. It's just like I don't know whether I'm a real big stickler for keeping all my software down, the amount of software I'm using, and like I wouldn't mind using as many things SteelSeries as I can, because like my mat is my keyboard, my headset, my mouse, and this is just one more thing. But I get that I can't just do that. Like I want to have like a Stream Deck, so I have that. I want to have like my Bose speakers, so I have that. Like it's like I definitely still want other things. Yeah, they don't make everything,
but they do have mics, don't they?
Yeah, they do have microphones. That's correct. Yes.
Whoa! Look at them. They're crazy looking.
They are a little crazy looking. They are very SteelSeries looking, in my opinion. I really like their headsets though. But one thing that I wouldn't mind actually is what the heck do you call that thing?
That little audio interface thing with
dials. What do you call these type of microphones? Condenser microphones, I think they're called.
Yeah. I
wouldn't mind getting not the SM7B, but like the condenser microphone version. I hear that's really good. But so I've heard two arguments. One of them is actually from me. One argument is that you shouldn't buy, and this one's not for me, that you shouldn't buy a microphone from someone who like, you know, puts a bunch of lights on it and stuff like that. Like you should be buying a microphone from someone who makes microphones and then decides, you know, hey, we have this really high-end product. Why don't we make a cheaper version? And then then you would potentially quote unquote get the best audio quality. My argument is that that's not necessarily true. Like, sure, like the companies that put a bunch of lights on there might be focusing a little bit on the lights and less on the audio quality. Possibly. I'm not an audiophile. I couldn't tell you that yes or no. The thing is, though, is there's a lot of microphones that are considered good that do have lights all over them. And two is like, Elgato and SteelSeries, they're not audio companies first, right? Like they're not like Shure or whatever. However, they are consumer companies. And so I argue that they're like both companies, like an audiophile company like Shure would struggle to lower the price, right? Because they would be striving for that excellence in sound quality. So they would struggle there. And the struggle of a consumer company, I would estimate, would be the struggle to make the quality good, but but they're used to making the price good. So like you're getting this. I just think that either option's reasonable. I think it's just up to the product itself. One of the companies are more consumer friendly, and that comes with strengths and weaknesses, and the other one's an audiophile company, and that comes with strengths and weaknesses.
But I think what we're kind of seeing, and I'm not sure if this is the case for like SteelSeries or Elgato or whatever, but these more tech companies are doing things better than the old guard companies.
Yeah, right. And I think that's because of their experience with the consumer. Because what'll happen, right, is like the old guard companies are often like, you know what, we're going to make this microphone. We're going to have, you know, an excellent interface, not an interface, but an excellent like plug. Where you can put an XLR in there, you can choose like the best XLR cable you want, plug it into the best interface, and like the potential is there. Whereas I feel like the consumer companies realize like, well, you know, Matt and Ryan want to have a podcast and they're just going to write up some notes, and then press record.
Yeah.
And that's what they're making it for, right? So like I feel like the old guard company, and I bring up Shure, but there's going to be other ones too. Electro Voice, I'm sure, does this too, is like they would struggle bringing it down, where they would be like, you know what, we'll just be $100 more than the other consumer brands because we just have to have this like slightly better port.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like 99% of consumers would be like, what? Like, no, like no one's going to use that extra potential in the port.
Yeah. Man, I'm just on Shure's website. They have a lot of mics, actually.
I think they did when I looked as well. Like I was looking at this because I have the Wave 3. I was looking at this, and then I was looking at that Shure SM7B, like the condenser version, SM3B maybe. I can't remember the name of it.
MV7X.
Maybe it's like a little mini. It's like a mini SM7B. Yeah. I was gonna get an SM7B, and then I thought, you know what, I don't want a bunch of friggin' interfaces and crap.
Oh, because your current mic is like what? Is it USB?
Yeah, it's a condenser USB microphone. That's that's the one that I'd be after. Like this, like if you know, if I export my audio as WAV, this thing is like great quality, and like for the price and everything. Yes, I know the audio files you can get better, but at the end of the day, like I think for like price to value, this is probably the way to go. And for simplicity too. Like if I needed to go out somewhere, I could very easily unplug the microphone, unscrew it from its mount, and just bring it with me. And then just plug it in via USB. Like the portability is great too.
Man, you know what though? This SteelSeries mic. So the Alias is $239, and the Alias Pro, which is probably just more expensive because it comes with the interface. I don't know if they're the same mic or not. Oh, okay. So the Alias is a USB condenser microphone. The Alias Pro is an XLR microphone. But it's $429 regularly. That's within the same price as the Shure SM whatever it was. 7B and the Electro Voice.
But I'm sure, so I would assume rather that the Shure SM7B does not come with an interface.
No, but that's still a high-end mic just based on price. Now, I don't know if the actual internals are or not, but if they're charging that much for it, you know.
I've never heard anyone, to be honest, I've never seen a SteelSeries mic in person or in video. No. I've only ever seen it on their website. I see that one all the time where it has like a lot of red in it, like it's a red light all down it.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen that one a lot, and I feel like that one maybe gets a bad rap because it has a bunch of lights. But again, they're just a few LEDs. Like a consumer company knows, like, oh, like a gamer will want or potentially will want the aesthetics to match their desk and all that.
All right, well, sorry for the tangent there, folks. We're talking
video game mics. That's fine.
We're going to start off with the show, though, with video game fun facts. So Matt has a video game fun fact for us. Take it away.
I do indeed. This week, we're going to be talking about a bit of gaming history once again. And I went digging for some fascinating, or at least what I found, some fascinating peripherals. Unfortunately, these things are as fascinating as they are a bit infamous in terms of sales and things like that. And this one of these I have heard of, and one of these I had not. So the one I had not heard of was actually called the N64DD, which stands for Nintendo 64 Disk Drive. I had no idea there was a disk drive accessory / attachment that you could use with the N64, but apparently there was. And then I knew about the Sega CD, and I wanted to bring that up as well. So I have like a variety of sort of research and points, and I'm going to sort of compare and contrast the two. So the N64DD was created to provide additional storage capacity using magnetic disks, of course. This is over top of the, or rather as a difference, I suppose, to the cartridges that the N64 normally uses. This additional capacity could offer expanded game content, and also this accessory would also offer online connectivity via the RANDnet service. So the N64 started kind of dabbling into the online world. Now, this was announced, the N64DD was announced in the mid-1990s, and it was, you know, kind of maybe a potentially new chapter, right? Because at the time, a lot of cartridge consoles were still kicking around, but CDs kind of started coming out. Like, I believe the PlayStation 1 came out in 1995, and so you kind of had this sort of like, you know, where's gaming going? Will it be cartridges? Will it be discs? And I mean, even today, we still have cartridges with things like the Switch, for example. So This thing, the N64DD, came out in Japan and only Japan in 1999. This was 3 years after the N64 had debuted on the market. Now, developers had already optimized all their games to actually be on cartridges. And so, unfortunately, this kind of had a bit of a bad market timing for this. Also, consumer interest had waned at the time of release. So you're kind of like entering in kind of an iffy consumer market. You're also entering a bit of a development technical issue era as well. Now, the hardware was these magnetic discs that held up to 64 megabytes of data. They connected this accessory connected to the bottom of the N64 via an expansion port. It included a real-time clock for tracking in-game events, such as time-sensitive activities, which we have today, of course, with events online. It shipped with a proprietary OS for managing the disk data and the online or RAND-net features. However, this, well, of course, having all these features, it did require an additional power supply. Now, the RAND-net service allowed players to download games, share custom content, and send messages. So I know that we always make fun of Nintendo for not knowing what the internet is, or at least that's what I used to say all the time. However, this is, pretty interesting, of course. However, this product was, as I said, only released in Japan, and as such, it only ever had 15,000 subscriptions in Japan at its total peak. And I mean, that's not a lot of subscribers. This thing also, unfortunately, did not have a lot of games. Only about 10 games were released for this thing, with notable titles including the successor to Mario Paint, which was Mario Artist. And also, there was an F-Zero-X expansion kit that added new tracks and features. Now, one other thing that this device was supposed to also support, it was supposed to support user-generated content like custom levels and tracks. And so people kind of got excited thinking like, hey, maybe we'll get some interesting sort of user-generated content, things that we can enjoy today and do in fact enjoy today with things, say, like Bethesda mods and Bethesda game mods and things like that. Unfortunately, as I said, this thing was released exclusively in 1999, and it was discontinued just 2 years later in 2001. This is regarded as one of Nintendo's most significant flops. Now, of course, this thing has a bit of a legacy, as I've already mentioned, because these ideas within this thing obviously had resurfaced. So game consoles that came after the N64, such as the GameCube had the mini disc, the Wii had disc, the Wii U had disc, and then now we have, of course, the Switch, which doesn't. But disc, of course, became a part of Nintendo's future. And of course, online connectivity also became a part of Nintendo's future with things like going online with the Wii. I don't know if you could go online with the GameCube. I never tried it. Likely, I would guess, but I don't know. And of course, the Switch can go online as well. Now, around the same time, one of the competitors in the console space was Sega, and Sega had a very similar device, and it actually did come out in Japan and North America. So this device was called the Sega CD. It was released in Japan in 1991 and North America in 1992, and it was designed to extend the life of the Genesis/Mega Drive systems. It utilized a CD technology for larger games that promised to have enhanced audio quality, and also allowed game devs to incorporate video cutscenes, otherwise known as FMV. It added a secondary, and this is ridiculous, a secondary 12.5 megahertz CPU to support CD functions. It boosted RAM and included a custom ASIC chip for data compression and decompression. It used standard CD-ROMs with 650 megabytes of storage. This is a much larger amount than the magnetic disc that was built for the N64DD at just 64 megabytes. This device, the Sega CD, also supported high-quality Redbook audio for improved music, and it connected to the Genesis via a side-mounted expansion slot. Now, there were some notable titles for this thing, such as Sonic CD, which had time travel mechanics and a very good soundtrack. Also, Lunar, the Silver Star, which is a classic RPG with rich storytelling. And also Night Trap, which pioneered FMV gameplay, but also had some controversial content inside of it. The price point was one of the big challenges of the Sega CD. It launched in the US at $299, which was a big old bunch of cash in 1992, especially since this thing is not standalone. It's just extending the life of the Genesis. This console add-on, I should say, also had a very limited library and is known for its heavy reliance on FMV games. FMV games, of course, even today, kind of are a little bit of a meme, as they are often criticized for having shallow gameplay. However, this thing was much more successful than the N64DD. It was still a niche product, but the Sega CD sold over 2 million units worldwide. And of course, it helped inspire CD gameplay, just like the N64DD did as well. And it also showcased the potential of multimedia in gaming. So this thing, if we were to compare the two, the N64DD focused on custom content and online features, and this was ahead of its time and also, unfortunately, poorly executed. The Sega CD decided to go a different route, and it decided to leverage CD-ROMs for multimedia experiences, but unfortunately, it got that mixed reception due to the reliance on FMV. The N64DD released late in the N64's life cycle, so this is why that consumer interest was kind of waning. It was also overshadowed by next-gen consoles, so developers were kind of being like, hey, we're either ready for the cartridges, like I've already mentioned, or we're heading on to next-gen. Like, we're not messing with the N64 much anymore, or if we are, we've got the tech ready for cartridges. The Sega CD, however, actually released at a relatively good part of the Genesis's life. In fact, it was the peak of the Genesis's life. However, it still struggled to compete with standalone CD-based consoles. The N64DD, as I mentioned, only had 10 titles, and there were very few memorable ones because they didn't really escape Japan, so it didn't have like sort of that worldwide appeal. Although, of course, some people love some of their N64DD titles. Sega CD had a larger library, a lot more exposure to just sort of the international market. However, a lot of those FMV games. The N64DD, or the N64 itself, had a huge worldwide impact. People still talk about it all the time. But like I said, I didn't even know the N64DD even existed. So this thing is largely forgotten. However, the Sega CD is something that I knew existed. So it had moderate success. It influenced future gaming technology. It just had a better run of it. So, I mean, there's a kind of a lot to unpack here, right? Like, obviously these are two different directions. Like, one thing is trying to just say, hey, pay us the $299, which was the Sega CD, and expand the life of your console. Whereas the N64DD is sort of being like, hey, connect online and let's try some new things. Let's try some messaging. Let's try this and that. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out. So this is kind of, I don't know, this comes from that era of gaming, I suppose, where people were really still trying things. Like today, the gaming industry is kind of criticized for not trying things in the hardware side, but especially not trying things in the software side, right? Like, people play it safe. Back then, it was still kind of the Wild West, where it was like games are all over the place. Like, oh yeah, we got this new Sega CD. Let's start doing FMV technology, and let's do this and let's do that, and so it was kind of an interesting era, and that's kind of why my gaming fun facts seem to sort of circle around this older era, because one year you could be, using like mini discs. The next year you're using some other crazy thing. The next year you're using a phone line or something ridiculous. So this sort of era, the N64DD and the Sega CD, both kind of showcase how, even though they released at comparable time periods, still completely different visions for the future. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Xbox and the PlayStation now are just sort of like box that plays games in high definition.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the gaming fun fact for the week. Sega CD versus the N64DD.
Looking at both of these, it makes the consoles so massive. I
remember the Sega CD was so tall. Like,
yeah. And the Sega CD, or just the Sega Genesis in general, what a weird looking console. And then they got like this with the Sega CD getting added on, like this weird, like, It like clamps on or something. I don't know what's going on there on the right.
I don't have a picture of it actually in front of me. Oh, well, if it's on the right-hand side, I believe that may be the connection to the expansion port, because the expansion port was on the side of the Sega Genesis.
I'm curious, like, that's a hard sell, right? To be like, we already got people to buy the console, but now how do we get them to buy this add-on to the console that's going to cost so much money? And it's that classic case of like developers don't want to make games for something that no one's using.
Right.
And so how do you get that balance of getting developers to do it and then hoping that the audience shows up for it, you know?
Well, this comes from an era that's not only was like a lot of this tech new, but the UX of a lot of this tech was new. Like the kind of consumer behaviors hadn't been, like, shall we say, standardized at that point. Like right now, you know, tech enthusiasts might have like a computer, a tablet, a game console, for example, right? Like kind of like a full sort of run of tech, a full collection of tech, maybe a smartwatch and other things in there. Whereas like, you know, someone else who's just a gamer may just have a game console. Back then, you know, it wasn't fully clear, right? It wasn't fully clear that people were going to buy game consoles, you know, every, you know, 8 years or every 5 years or so. Things weren't completely clear at that time. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but Sony had that crazy plan to bring the PS2 to be like a computer for every room. Like they thought like there'd be a PS2 for the living room, a PS2 for the bedroom, a PS2 for like for the kids to do their homework in the office of the house and things like that. Like there was like the consumer behavior still hadn't been fully figured out.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of these companies are sort of like, hey, you know, do people want to upgrade consoles, or would they prefer to update their existing consoles?
Yeah.
Like which one would which one would they prefer? And it was sort of like, I don't know. Like even the internet was new. I mean, how many people didn't have computers back then? I mean, I didn't have a computer growing up, and it was in this era, right? And so people were already on multiple generations of gaming hardware. Meanwhile, like we didn't have internet, we didn't have a computer. It just wasn't a thing that was in our house.
This is also known as Mega CD in most regions outside North America and Brazil. So it was the Sega Mega CD?
It's because, so it was called, the console was called the Genesis and also the Mega Drive. I believe, don't quote me on this because this was not a part of my research. I believe they're the same console with different branding depending on region.
Well, yeah, just on Wikipedia here, it has an original Sega CD bottom attached to a Model 1 Genesis.
Okay.
And then it says the other picture is a Model 2 Sega CD attached to a Model 2 Genesis. So they had two models of the Genesis. Is that for different regions, or is that different times?
No, I think it was slim. There's one that's really big and the other one's really small. Like I have a couple of slims.
The second one looks a lot nicer than the original.
Second one looks a lot more modern. The other one kind of looks like it blends in with like an Atari 2600. That era of tech.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you, Matt.
Well, thank you, Ryan.
All right. Let's hop into the stories for the week. First up, PlayStation and AMD are teaming up to infuse games with AI. This comes to us from The Verge. Sony is furthering its partnership with AMD so they can create more AI-powered technology to make games look and play better, and not just on PlayStation hardware. The two companies are establishing a deeper collaboration to work on machine learning-based technology for graphics and gameplay. Lead architect of the PS5 and PS5 Pro, Mark Cerny, announced on Wednesday. The two already partnered on PS5 and PS5 Pro's GPUs, which are based on AMD's RDNA 2 architecture. And the PS5 Pro uses a feature called PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, to improve image clarity and frame rates. The companies have two goals with this Project Amethyst, according to Cerny. Quote, the first goal is a more ideal architecture for machine learning. This includes something that's particularly good at dealing with lightweight convolution neural networks for game graphics. The second goal is to develop a set of high-quality CNNs, which was what that convolution neural network is. Both SIE and AMD will independently have the ability to draw from this collection of network architectures and training strategies, and these components should be key in increasing the richness of game graphics, as well as enabling more extensive use of ray tracing and path tracing. Now, that's all very technical gobbledygook, but basically they're working with AMD to make, to use AI upscalers for both visuals and frame rates, But they're not just doing it for PlayStation alone. This technology that they develop will apparently be open to anyone. So Xbox theoretically, which also uses AMD cards or AMD processors, could take advantage of this. What's your take on this, man? What do you think?
I'd be interested to know if Microsoft would ever want to take advantage of something like this, or whether they would make their own. Obviously, they're versed in AI. They have the whole Copilot, as well as Copilot PC, Copilot Plus PC, sort of run on things with their new PCs that run on ARM. Then there's like neural cores or whatever the heck they call them inside of those CPUs as well. So it'd be interesting to see like who else would use this. Like, I mean, the only other person I can really think of that would necessarily use this would be, off the top of my head, would be Nintendo. But I'm actually kind of wondering whether some of this stuff is going to be used outside of gaming. Because I was thinking to myself, like, I remember you were talking last night, Ryan, how you were kind of disappointed that instead of us just sort of having hardware that can run stuff, we seem to be just going like, well, kind of give us it in a lower quality, in a worse quality, and then have the AI like upscale it to be more acceptable.
Right, because like ideally you would want a game running natively at 4K and ideally 120 hertz at least. And it's just like we're kind of at the edge of that being mainstream, but it feels like we're now just going to, oh no, we can do a 1080p image and then use AI to upscale it to 4K and then upscale the frame rate to 120 hertz. And that just feels like we're using it as a crutch rather than a tool to make it better.
Well, I was thinking about that, and it does seem like that on the surface, but I'm curious, like, if other benefits of having a worse format, or like a lesser quality format could be kind of taken into consideration. So, for example, you know how something like a Netflix is really, really good at streaming at a really high quality based on your internet speed. Like your internet speed could be pretty bad, but Netflix will still be delivering you, pretty well HD, if not HD content, right? Like really with relative ease. My thought is, what my thought is though is, these games and of course other pieces of software as well would be ballooning in size, to the point where it's like, this is taking up a lot of storage space. And I'm just kind of wondering whether we can start cutting down on that and start leveraging these AI technologies to just upscale. So we would provide something like, let's just say a 1080p texture, which is significantly smaller in storage size to a 4K or an 8K texture, and then just have the AI upscale it. And the benefit of that is, saved space, but I mean, which is great. But also, like, if we think about it in different contexts, I mean, we were talking a few weeks ago about a potentially mobile PlayStation, and a potentially mobile Xbox, handheld Xbox. I mean, if we want our handheld consoles to do much better, I mean, AI upscaling may be what it needs for performance, but also for visual fidelity. Because right now on the go, we make a lot of concessions because of the amount of hardware, kind of computing power we can pack in. But we also make concessions because of the battery power as well. Now, I don't know how efficient these AI technologies are, but maybe these AI technologies are much more efficient at upscaling than native hardware is at rendering. If that is the case, then now we're not only saving storage space, but we're also saving battery life. And then we could even put in a higher power, or rather a higher resolution screen onto these handhelds, because that's something else that we kind of make a concession there as well. So we could have a higher resolution screen on a handheld, and then now you have a more efficient way to pump out a better image to that better display that isn't killing your battery more than expected.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against using AI upscalers. I just don't want it to hamper the development of raw computing power.
Do you think, though, that we aren't going to continue? What's the difference, I guess, is a question. Like, raw sounds better, but when I think about it in my head, I think, you know what? Like, if I found out that 1080p was always being, at a bit level in the CPU, was always being upscaled, and that's just the way it worked, I would never be like, man, like, this sucks. I would just be like, oh, that's interesting, and I'd kind of move on with my day, right? So it's sort of like, isn't this maybe the next step in our computing? Like our old computing was throw as much computing power at it as possible to do the most raw amount of work possible. Is AI not potentially, I'm not saying it is AI not potentially the next step where we go, to heck with all this extra computing power and extra electricity and heat that it's generating? And again, I don't know how efficient this AI technology is. This AI technology might be really bad for this, but if it isn't, I mean, maybe this is how we're going to do things moving forward.
But I'm assuming the AI is done on the card, right? That's why you can only use DLSS like version 3 on a more modern NVIDIA RTX card, right? So this AI is happening on the card itself. Where things are inefficient are the big AI servers.
Right. But I think that this is a stepping stone. Like if they're opening this up, which they said they are going to be, what I'm saying is that I can see, this type of technology and a bunch of other stuff, DLSS and all that other stuff, FSR, being stepping stones to like, hey, our smart TVs are pretty bad in performance. Well, instead of putting in a better processor, which costs more, maybe at some point we could have an onboard, DLSS where it just runs quickly. It doesn't need to have a great GPU or anything. It runs great on a cheaper SoC, and it's just enough of a performance boost. Instead of giving us, a chip that potentially would, need to be cooled and such, we can now put this chip in this really tiny, really thin TV, and it has this DLSS boost or this PSSR boost or whatever that boosts it up. Because I'm not versed fully in, I don't think like DLSS in that does not require online connectivity, right? Like none of this,
yeah.
Because like if I lose internet, I'm not suddenly losing performance as far as I know. I haven't actually done much research into this.
Right. Yeah.
So like if we could, like this is the beginning of this stuff. So to me, it's sort of like, I don't know how helpful this is going to be in this generation of PlayStation, because the PlayStation's already kind of set in stone. Like the hardware is kind of set, right? We have PS5, PS5 Slim, PS5 Pro.
Yeah.
We've kind of figured that out. But imagine an Xbox Series S just being as good as the Xbox Series X.
Oh yeah, no, I totally think it has fundamental places where it can be used. And you brought up a good point about mobile, because I think that's the perfect place for it. Because that would be amazing if your Steam Deck could look and run like a desktop PC natively. Yeah,
and I mean, just think about our cell phones. Like, if we can get this AI technology to be really, really efficient, I mean, one thing that kills cell phones is video games, like playing games on there. And part of that is the amount of screen on time, which is obviously always going to be a power draw because the screen has to be on for us to perceive it. However, one of the things also is the fact that the game is rendering graphics in various fidelity, like maybe full 3D, maybe not, if it's like a card game, whatever, the list goes on. But what if you do go on and you play a more demanding game like something like COD Mobile, but you have, a PSSR or a DLSS equivalent that's like super efficient on battery life? I mean, if we can get that down and, nothing, doesn't require any sort of cloud, just runs right on the chip. I mean, we can sell phones that generate less heat, that potentially might even need smaller batteries. Actually, like we might go down in battery size. We might go down. Like I don't really see that. Like they would probably keep it at a level because people would get confused and be like, why are we going back down to 3,500 milliamp hours? Right. But we might stick around the 5,000 to 5,500 milliamp hour mark and get like 10,000 milliamp hour equivalent to like 2024 equivalent out of our phones, even when doing things that are demanding. Like it's pretty fascinating to be able to take a piece of hardware and to extend its life. I mean, your PC, Ryan, you even said that the performance on Remnant 2 is not that great unless you turn on DLSS on your PC. And your PC was built before all this AI stuff came out, before LLMs were big or even publicly available, I think.
Well, DLSS is pretty oldish at this point, right?
Yeah, but AI has kind of caught on.
They built it into it. I think whenever they started doing the ray tracing stuff, I think also they had DLSS coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1.0 came out in February 2019.
When did you build your PC?
The card is like probably from 2019.
Oh, okay, there you go. But like, so look at that. You're using an older version of DLSS before AI caught on. And yes, I know DLSS is different than an LLM. I just mean the amount of excitement around AI is going to bring a bunch of investment and innovation into it. So like you're using an AI, effectively an AI version, if you will. And this isn't an exact science, but an AI version that's older to extend the life of your PC that was built, what, now 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was, 2019, you said. So 5 years ago, 5, 6-ish, because we're at the end of this year. Like, that's pretty impressive. Like, I mean, it's impressive to me. It's pretty crazy to think that like my previous computer had like 16 ports and I was using USB 2 and it had a freaking PS2 port in the top and it was all this other crap. And like, now it's like, yeah, just use AI to extend the life of my PC by a few years. Like, what?
Yeah,
what's going on
amazing.
here? It's pretty whack. So I know this type of stuff excites me. I like AI stuff. I mean, I know it's controversial. I like it. I think it's interesting.
I don't think it's as controversial as it once was. I think when it started out, like the whole art world kind of didn't like it, and there's things that have to be ironed out and figured out legally and ethically. But I do think it's already, people know it's here to stay. Like you can't go back. You know, the genie is out of the bottle or the lamp. What's the phrase?
I think it's genie out of the bottle. Yeah, I think
the toothpaste is out of the tube.
It's the toothpaste out of the tube.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once it's out. It's out. You ever
Challenge
heard that
accepted.
Speaking of mobile, though, you were talking about mobile games. Apple does have their own AI upscaler called Metal FX.
Okay.
That they use on iOS and Mac OS.
I want to say I thought I saw something on a Samsung phone once. It might have been something else though. Like, don't quote me. I thought I saw something. Because like that would help.
That'd be a Samsung thing, right?
I would say Samsung. Yeah, like if anyone has it in the Android world, it'd be Samsung, likely. But I don't know. This stuff is interesting. Like, but you're right. Like, there's been a bunch of controversial stuff with AI. You know, some good stuff, some bad stuff. But that's always going to happen.
Oh yeah, every new thing does that.
Every new thing. Like, I'm sure people were like, God damn, like the stables are going to go out of business because cars are everywhere. Cars are the enemy. It's like, oh God. Roads are the enemy. Light bulbs, the worst thing that happened to mankind since fire. Why would you like to see at night?
So this is an article from AndroidAuthority.com from 2023, November 2023. Samsung Galaxy phones could soon get PC-grade gaming boost. And basically it says they could be using FSR at some point.
And what's that article from again? Sorry?
November 2023.
Okay. I mean,
I don't know if they're currently doing anything. When I just did a quick Google, or sorry, Bing.
Oh, God.
It just says Galaxy AI, but I don't know if that's an actual, gaming upscaler.
It might be. Galaxy AI is all over the place. Apparently, I use it without knowing it. Like, so what I'm told like, oh, some features are just sort of baked in. Okay, sure.
Okay, well, let me try this question. Does Galaxy AI help gameplay?
Because I definitely notice my battery go down a fair bit when I game on stuff, but I rarely do.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. We may never know.
The world may never find out.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, it's really hard to tell. There's a big long technical article. Mark Cerny gave a big long technical video. You can go check it out on like PlayStation's YouTube. He also did an interview with Digital Foundry. It's all above my head, but it sounds like I mentioned here that they're using RDNA 2 instead of the current RDNA 3 architecture, and the reason they kept with 2 is because if they made the PS5 Pro with RDNA 3, all the games would have to be completely remade for that new architecture. And that's more for a console generation than a Pro variant. So they had to figure out a way to get PSSR working on an RDNA 2 architecture without having independent neural cores, which Mark Cerny said would actually slow down the ability to get kind of this AI assistance in frame rates and stuff.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I think I mentioned, right? Where it's like this AI stuff is great for this generation. It has to start somewhere, but it's likely not going to help this generation too much, meaning this generation of consoles, because this generation of consoles was built on the idea that you needed the maximum amount of hardware. Whereas, like, I don't even know if there's neural cores or whatever they call it, like neural whatever blah blah circuits in the, like, I don't know if those are
Tensor cores on NVIDIA, I think.
Yeah, so like AI cores, I'll just say. I don't even know if there's any AI cores in a PS5. You know, like the PS5 came out in a time in which this stuff was either not around or in its infancy.
Yeah.
So like the PS6 may take massive advantage of it, and maybe they can make the console freaking smaller. Holy crap!
Right. All right. I mean, they're gonna keep working on that. The PS5 Pro does have PSSR. I have seen some reports that it does make some games look worse. So
Oh,
in certain aspects, like I've noticed, like hair kind of looks bad when playing like Dragon Age or something, because that's a lot of little individual strands and trying to use AI to quickly, increase that. I don't know if that's what's causing that, but
can you toggle it off?
no.
So how do we know that the PSSR is making it look worse? Someone's playing it on a PS5 versus a PS5 Pro?
They must know. Maybe there's patched notes or something that's saying that they were taking advantage, or maybe it applies it to all games. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Next up here, November 2024 sales charts. Nintendo Switch passes PS2 to become the second best-selling gaming hardware in U.S. history. Because I think PS2 is still like up there for global sales. This comes from Circana's. It comes from IGN. This article, but the research comes from Circana's November video game sales report, which states that lifetime unit sales of the Nintendo Switch are now 46.6 million units. Again, I think that's American. They gave an update that the Switch currently trails the Nintendo DS by over 7 million units in the US. So still some ground to make up there. Switch sales were down though, or slowing down. It was only the second best selling console for November, following the PS5 in both unit and dollar sales, with Xbox Series consoles in third. Overall hardware spending was flat, with 15% year-over-year growth for PlayStation hardware, offsetting a 29% drop in Xbox Series sales and 3% drop on Switch. That's kind of wild, isn't it? It really does feel like Xbox is just ceding console territory.
Like people say that, but the thing is though, is like, again, they are losing, but they haven't sold 5 units. Like people gotta relax. Like, could you imagine being in third place, running a console maker in third place in the world? Like, you wouldn't be like, man, we never sell anything. Like, right. You would still need a massive logistical network, manufacturing, the list goes on. I mean, like, yeah. In comparison to the competition, like PlayStation specifically, because I know that Switch is in its own world or whatever, fair enough. But I don't know. I just think people are like, that's it. The Xbox is done. It sold 15 units. It's like, no, it didn't sell 15 units. I have 2, for Christ's sake.
This is one of those things too, where it's like, it's okay to monopolize or to what do you call it? What's it called when you eat your own species? Cannibalize.
I was going to say cannibalism.
It's okay to cannibalize your own product as long as you're making growth in some other sector. So we're treating this like, or I think a lot of people are treating this like, oh, their console sales are down, Xbox must be suffering. It's like, no, they're shifting where they're making their money. And now they're not going to come out and say, this is part of the plan. We know Xbox sales are going to drop. They're always going to say we love the Xbox. We want to invest in the Xbox. We're playing a next gen console. They're not going to say we're slowly sunsetting this thing, right? Of course, they're not going to say that because they still do want to sell it. But I think just their priority has shifted away from selling consoles to selling software or to selling services. The fact that Indiana Jones is coming out on PlayStation in a couple months or whenever it is, should probably tell you that they're more interested in just selling you games than they are consoles.
Well, we also mentioned, for years and years now that we've kind of entered this like service economy, and everybody wants to have, software as a service, have your subscription, sell you services, and that there's quote unquote no money in hardware. I know people say that, but then they make millions or billions in hardware, someone like Apple. Like it's one of those situations. You know what all this crap feels like? It feels like, when like and this has happened a few times in Canada, or like a Canadian brand starts doing bad, or no, not even start doing bad. They get to the top of Canada. Like they're like, we're the best enter in product name here. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, but there's no room to grow. We're out of here. And they just fucking leave. And it's like, you're leaving on top. And it's like, I understand the whole capitalist, you must grow, but isn't that shrinking by leaving? Like, wouldn't you say we need to go elsewhere? And that's kind of what Xbox is doing. Xbox like went into the console market, obviously, and they went all, here's our console, here's our offering. We got a cheap one, we got an expensive one. They got all this great stuff. And then, we got some exclusives, we got this, we got that. And then they're like, well, we're not selling that too great. So why don't we, and the only service they sold us was Xbox Live, which is now Xbox Network or whatever it is. So then it's like, hey, you know what? Why don't we try to sell like a Netflix of games? In fact, why don't we just sell it everywhere? And why don't we sell our games everywhere and things like that? It's sort of like, instead of Xbox being that Canadian company that just goes like, I'm freaking out of here. I'm leaving, or that Canadian brand or Canadian version of a brand. Instead of them just leaving, they're going like, no, like I'll still take that third place. Like I'll still take those millions of dollars, but I would also like that guy's $1 million too.
But I'm just saying, I don't think the Xbox sales are going to come back. They're not going to come roaring back.
I would actually question that a little bit. The reason why I would say I'd question that is because Game Pass is doing quite well, and Phil Spencer said one thing. He said, how the digital library was started to grow in the PS4, and they lost that thing in that generation, and that was one of the worst generations to lose. One of the things is if Game Pass is truly as popular as it is, I would say that almost indicates that people aren't that caring about their digital library too much. Now, I might be wrong. Maybe they're just getting Game Pass for a game or two. But if you're a lifetime or since the beginning a Game Pass subscriber, the question really lies in, do you care about keeping that game? Like, you're playing Indiana Jones right now, Ryan. I'm playing Stalker 2. Do I care about keeping Stalker 2? A little bit, but I mean, once I beat it and I'm done with it, unless I'm in like a nostalgic mood in 10 years, not really, right? And so it doesn't really matter if they take Stalker 2 away for some reason.
Well, it's kind of like music in that way. I know the price difference is massive, but it's like I used to purchase music from iTunes, but now I just have an Apple Music subscription. I don't own, well, you never technically own the digital music, but I don't purchase music anymore. It's all through subscription. However, I'm likely never going to unsubscribe from Apple Music, unless some other new Apple service comes to replace it. I will probably be subscribed to Apple Music for the rest of my life, right? So that music will always be there, even though I don't technically own it or have purchased a copy of it. So the same might be true for Game Pass, where it's like having a Game Pass subscription just means that, what was the game you used there as an example?
I used Stalker 2 and Indiana Jones.
Well, I'm going to use Indiana Jones since it's an Xbox game or a Microsoft Studios game. Xbox Studios. That's always going to be in that subscription as far as we know, So there's even less of a need to own it because it's just like, I'm probably going to have Game Pass for a long time too.
Right.
And so I technically always have access to it, just like you would if you purchased it.
Like, we used to get super excited for Steam sales, and now you told us the other night, there's a Steam sale on, and I like my Steam library. I totally still use Steam. I got nothing against Steam, but I don't run to the store when there's a sale anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just playing what's on Game Pass currently, right?
Yeah.
And I'll totally play again. I'll totally play my Steam library. There's a few games I am actively playing on there, but it's just a matter of okay, when push comes to shove, if a new console generation starts, what is Xbox going to do? Well, Xbox currently has the marketing campaign of this is an Xbox, pointing to devices like, tablets and computers and smart TVs and things like that aren't the traditional Xbox console. Now PlayStation would want to keep it more traditional. So let's say PS6, Xbox, 2, I don't know what you want to call it. I was going to call it Xbox 2. Xbox 2 wants to come out. So then they go, all right, well, the PlayStation 1 is likely going to be sold out forever again. Assuming it's a repeat of this year, of this generation, it's going to be sold out forever. It's going to be, $500 to $700 or $400 to $700 or whatever, depending on your region. And it's going to be rather expensive. What if Xbox comes out and goes, this is an Xbox, and it's literally a $60 stick?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how enticing is that going to be? If they pull off the marketing, I mean, again, to a parent, you might be like, Jesus, I can get a new Xbox for $60.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty good. Like maybe that's what they're gonna do because they're already advertising those combination, those like sort of if you buy an Amazon Fire Stick, you get like a console or you get a controller, and I think you get maybe some time on Game Pass.
Right.
Like this is like we're entering kind of a brave new world a little bit. So I mean, Xbox could come out swinging next gen. We don't know.
Actually, we were just talking about like literally just happened to me with this current Steam sale, where it's like I do like building up my Steam library. I'll buy games that I've already played on PlayStation or whatever, just to like add it to my library as like almost like collecting games rather than planning on playing them again. So Titanfall 2 is on this like deep discount list on the Steam sales. It's $4 Canadian, right? That would be a perfect candidate for me to purchase and just have in my library. However, I didn't buy it because it's part of EA Play, which is part of Game Pass. So right there, Game Pass has already stopped me from purchasing what I would have normally purchased to keep in my library.
And like stop you from purchasing at $4.
At $4, yeah.
Not 40, which is already discounted for a lot of games.
Yeah.
4. Like
$4, yeah.
A tenth of a discounted game in Canada.
Yeah. So there you go. But this deep discount page, this is how I used to remember Steam sales. Stuff being this cheap every now and then,
And you know what? Like, I mean, there is something to like. I still like exactly like you're saying. I absolutely like buying games on Steam. I like to gift games on Steam. I receive gifts on Steam around Christmas and things. Like it's still like Steam is still Steam to me. Like it's not. It hasn't gone anywhere. But it's just a matter of it being like there's just another thing in the market now. Yeah. Like it hasn't replaced anything. It's just another thing that I use, and it changes. It changes your behavior. You only have so much time.
Yeah.
And you only have so much money, and obviously you're using that thing for a reason.
Yeah. Alrighty. We also have a list of the top 20 best-selling games in the U.S. for the month of October. That's a little. I guess we don't have November yet, but in October. Obviously, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. That is when it came out, right? October.
That sounds right.
And then always the sports games, followed by Madden, NFL 25, EA Sports, FC 25, and EA Sports College Football 25. And that's probably why EA, you don't see them making a lot of other games anymore. They're just making sports games. Because they took up the second, third, and fourth spots here.
I mean, they may as well. I mean, that's what they've been doing for so many years, right? And they have the rights to all the teams and stuff, so...
It's kind of sad. It's just one of those things where it's like, Activision... Before the Microsoft buyout was like the biggest publisher in the world. But it's like, what games did they make? Like Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
That was kind of all Activision did anymore. Even though when I was a kid, the Activision logo popped up all the time. Now it doesn't because they just make Call of Duty. That's it. And yeah, they own Blizzard, so all the Blizzard games, blah, 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 blah. But now it's like EA. It's like I used to play EA games a lot. There used to be a ton of EA games. And now it's just like they're just sports games and they don't really do much else after that.
Yeah, like, I mean, one of my favorite games of all time is Mercenaries. And that's an EA game / Pandemic. Yeah. And, like, it would be weird for EA today to be like, hey, we're going to make another Mercenaries. I mean, I would love that, but it would be weird.
It's like they got the Star Wars license for a bit, and they're still, like, hanging on to that. They don't have exclusivity anymore, but they made those two Jedi games. But it's just like, that's kind of all I see coming out of them. And I guess because they have Apex, too, right?
Yeah, Apex Legends, yep.
Yeah, so it's like once they get their big money makers, they just stop making other things. It's weird.
I mean, there is a lot of effort having to, like, I mean, imagine running Call of Duty, which is an annual full AAA experience release.
Yeah.
Like, running that machine. I know people love it, hate it, whatever, but running that machine is probably hell.
Yeah. In fifth place for October was Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
I thought that said sparkling. I was like, man, is this a new version of flavored water?
Yeah. Number 6, Super Mario Party Jamboree. Number 7, Mario and Luigi Brothership. 8, Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. NBA 2K25. Dragon Age The Veilguard. Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh my god.
A game that came out in what, 2023?
Yeah, I want to say, yeah.
Crazy. November 2023.
Hooey.
So almost a year later, it's still on the charts in 11th place. After that, Dragon Quest 3, Astrobot, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Silent Hill 2, Undisputed, Metaphor Refantasio, nominated for Game of the Year. Minecraft. Minecraft is still in there.
Oh, probably always will be now.
My Sims Cozy Bundle.
Man, I used to play fucking My Sims back in the day. I used to play that shit on my Wii, and then I remember one day I was playing it, and I was like, "Why am I doing this?" And I just stopped. And but I liked it. I don't know. I liked it the whole time until like one day I just stopped. I don't know what happened to me.
And then in the 20th spot, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. Surprised not to see GTA on here. Did that finally fall off the list after 10 years or whatever it's been?
Likely because the GTA 6 was announced.
Remember how it was like always in the top like 10 at least somewhere?
Oh Christ, it's probably 21 knowing this damn thing.
Yeah,
or this month was a fluke or something.
Yeah. All right, our final story for the week. Sony becomes the largest shareholder in From Software parent company Kadokawa. No full takeover for now.
Oh man.
Comes to us from IGN. Sony has invested 50 billion yen, approximately $318 million US, in From Software parent company Kadokawa, putting the brakes on a full takeover for now. With the investment, Sony becomes the largest shareholder with 10% of the company's shares. Chinese megacorp Tencent is next in line. Kadokawa and Sony have formed what the pair describe as a strategic capital and business alliance. God, could they make that any less exciting? With the goal to boost Kadokawa's long list of intellectual properties globally. The announcement of the deal includes vague corporate speak about how the two companies plan to work together in the future. But there is a line about adapting Kadokawa's IP into live-action films and TV dramas globally, co-producing anime works, and further expanding the publishing of Kadokawa's games. It's kind of funny that this is like my first time hearing of this company name, eh? Given how big Elder Scrolls and Bloodborne and stuff like that is.
I remember back in the day we had to look up Vivendi as well, and it's like it's this huge conglomerate. It's like what? Like,
yeah, there it is, some building in Tokyo.
HQ, I imagine.
Yeah, I just want to see what other games they made. Or are they just a big? Or are they kind of like Embracer Group, where they just own a bunch of crap? You know
that was another one that was like Vivendi. I remember because I knew Vivendi from something. I think it might have been.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say Arma, but that's Bohemia. I'm not sure, but
yeah, it says group companies. It brings together several affiliated Japanese companies.
Oh, there you go. So like we would see the companies, not this.
Yeah, these companies are three types: publishing, film and visuals, and cross media. Sorry, I didn't say that properly. Three types: publishing, film and visuals, and cross media.
Is that why maybe Sony is like not just going in and buying it because they're like, man, we're gonna get a bunch of stuff?
Probably. Like, I don't know if they want all that.
Because imagine just being like, man, I kind of wanted Elden Ring.
Well, this talks about obviously they probably want more From Software stuff, but this goes into talk about how they want to make Elden Ring movie or TV series of some kind. So they have a lot of other IP that Sony, who makes TV and movies, would probably want to make TV shows and movies of, you know?
Yeah.
So that's probably part of this too.
It'd be interesting to see them like take over something that, I mean, I didn't realize was so freaking large.
Yeah. But obviously everyone wants them to make, you know, another Elden Ring or Bloodborne 2 or Bloodborne remake or something new from FromSoft. But will it be exclusive to PlayStation now?
Likely.
You think so?
Likely.
Wow. All right.
Well, we know that Xbox is being more open.
But Sony's going to close it up.
Is Sony going to? Like, is Sony going to be like, yeah, Xbox, here's Elden Ring?
To be fair, now they haven't done a lot on Xbox, but they have brought their games to PC, which is Microsoft.
Well, ish, but yeah.
I guess they're not going through the Xbox store on
and PC. You can run games on Linux.
Yeah. They brought that Lego Horizon game to Switch.
They've always had like a thing with them though, right? Or no, that was Ubisoft, I'm thinking.
Yeah. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that eventually Sony might do that. What if they started with like a really old game? What if they're like the first Uncharted is coming to Xbox?
I don't know. I think that might be going too far back. It might be a bit of an insult. Like, here's Uncharted, just a little bit of shit here for you. Yeah. Not up. This is. We want to be clear. This is not a remake. This is not a remaster. This is Uncharted, the greatest hit version of.
Yeah, with the red top on the Xbox box.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for the news. What we're playing, Matt? What are you playing this week? What were you playing?
Well, I was talking to you about this. I've been really, really digging Stalker 2. I've been playing a lot of Stalker
You
2.
are the stalker.
I It sounds weird when I say that. Like, I've had to explain it a few times to people because I started watching videos of stalkers and people are like, stalkers, like creeps? I'm like, no, like stalkers that go into the exclusion zone because, which is like around Chernobyl and Pripyat, because there are like real life stalkers that like go into the exclusion zone illegally and things like that. And like, again, it is illegal and dangerous, so don't do that. But I just like watching the videos of them do it.
Matt, you gotta give the whole thing. It's S.T.
I'm not gonna do that. No, I just love watching
stalker.
videos about STALKER, similar to STALKER2, Heart of Chernobyl. Like, no, that's ridiculous. No, so I've been really enjoying Stalker 2 a whole bunch, and getting into those videos as well, like I said. And last time I played was 2 nights ago, and just last night I watched a video. Apparently there's a huge patch dropped, and there's this AI system in the game called A-Life, and it's like an AI, I'm going to call it like an enhancement suite, but basically it's makes the game feel like it's like kind of more like alive, more living. So basically, there's a bunch of stuff that this is supposed to do, but one of the big things that's interesting to me is that you might be out and about, and there might be like a group of stalkers that go to move in to a random POI, a random ruin. There may be a bunch of mutants all around there, so they may kill the mutants, and then they may go inside of the base, and then they may decide, okay, I'm going to set up camp here for the night, and actually set up a camp and like live there for a bit. So like AI, like it's more of like the AI is enhanced, like the experience is more like real life, how real life would be, because like just like how we do in the game, you don't really camp in Stalker 2, but you would if you were a real stalker, where you would go around and in this world and fight mutants, do all this stuff, and then you'd be like, man, I'm tired, I just cleared out this POI, I'm going to camp here, and your motivate, what I mean, like the human player has a motivation to do that, and so it kind of adds that to the AI, which is super cool. But it does a bunch of fixes too. So there was something that was really annoying, which I thought was part of the game, which was people kept spawning behind me. I'd hear a bunch of screaming and yelling, and the music would get all intense. They're like, "What the hell is going on?" And then like I'd get ambushed. And I always thought it was just an ambush. Like I thought it was just that, but apparently that was a mistake. Also, enemies used to only really spawn close to you, and I did experience that a bunch. The friggin' dirty old rats, this fucking rat mutants, those are a pain in the ass. The friggin' fucking dogs around Zalicia are such a pain in the ass. And of course, the humans that would ambush you from behind, they would always spawn really close. And I just thought it was, again, part of the game. Apparently that was a bit of a bug, a bit of an issue. So people actually will spawn out far away from you. Mutants will have different statuses. Like the mutants won't always be just sort of running around like I've seen them. They'll actually be like, spawn far away from you. They'll actually be sleeping. You'll see stalkers kind of go and attack them and stuff. And to be clear, some of this A-Life stuff was working. Like I would hear huge exchanges of between stalkers and bandits. I would hear exchanges between stalkers and mutants. I would hear, and could run over and interact with these situations as well. So it was working to an extent, but the guy who was doing the video, he was saying how the game was like super desolate, and I thought that was just part of the game, because that's exactly what it was. Like I'd go out and sometimes I would do a mission or two and see nobody except for the mission givers or the people involved in the mission. He was saying that like that's no longer the case. Like there's a lot of more stalkers running around. There's a lot more kind of mutants that are like sleeping or like hanging around their territory or whatever. And it just feels a lot more organic. So I can't wait to get back into it to try it, because it's like this might even be like a totally different experience than what I've had. Like it sounds like it really might be. I heard about this A-Life thing at launch, and I think this may have been the thing that people were really pissed off about having been broken. Because if I jump back into this game after this patch, and it really is like revolutionarily different, then the game was largely broken then in terms of what they wanted to present. Because I've always said I've experienced the odd bug, but I've only ever had to restart the game once because of a bug, and that was because like my HUD disappeared, which can happen in any game. So I was like, I don't really get these game breaking bugs. I don't really see those yet. But I'm not too far in the game. Just to kind of give context, I'm heading toward. I just left Garbage, so the story just had me leave Garbage, and we're starting to talk about Reactor 4. We're starting to talk about, and I can see Pripyat. I believe that's what Pripyat is. and you talk to one of the main characters, and he sort of like points them out to you from like a high point. He's like, take a look, this and that, this and that. He tells you some stuff, which I'll cover up for the sake of spoilers. And then he's like, you should go check out Pripyat, pretty much. He's like, Pripyat's awesome, kind of thing. So I'm like, oh, fuck, like, all right. Like, maybe I'll run out there and do that. Not yet. I'll get my ass kicked. But right now I'm heading toward, slight spoiler alert, right now I'm heading toward a base where I can't remember the name of the faction, but they're ex-Monolithians. Monolithians were like, I can't like fully remember either, like it's been so many years now, but they're basically like kind of feared and hated in the zone. They're one of the first people that like guarded the Wishmaker or something like that. It's like Stalker lore is so deep that I can't remember it. It's so old at this point in my brain. But like, I'm kind of interested to go talk to the ex-Monolithians and see what's up. So that'll be interesting. Met a new enemy called the Zombie, which sounds like, flesh-eating zombie. They were, at least in the cutscene I was in, were harmless. They were just sort of like wandering around, kind of like aimless humans. So they were human. They were just kind of aimlessly walking around, not talking, not really engaging with us, even though we were right in front. One of the dudes just like kind of got annoyed that the zombie was walking in an inconvenient direction and just pointed him in the right direction in a more convenient direction. So it's not like they're like walkers from The Walking Dead trying to bite you or anything. Maybe in the game they'll try to kill me, but who knows?
Walkers
and DKs from the Walking Dead web series.
Kong.
No, they're DKs because they're decaying.
I never knew that.
Yeah, that's from like I said, the one of the web series seasons of The Walking Dead. But yeah, no, Stalker 2's been a blast. Getting better at sort of taking out facilities, better at stealth. They've done some fixes to stealth as well, I understand. So that'll be interesting. They've added rewards for killing mutants, which is great because the mutants are a big pain in the ass. You spend all your ammo and then you're like, well, fuck. And back to the town, back to your stash. And I found out you could fast travel in this game. I didn't know you could. I found a dude in the one town I'm in at Garbage. And I went to go talk to him and he was like, hey man, like I can guide you anywhere. And I was like, oh. And I was like, maybe he could guide me to like someplace crazy like Pripyat or something. And the only place he could guide me to was Elysia, which is the only other city at the time that I had been to. And I was like, oh, this is likely fast travel. So I'm almost certain that's actually a fast travel thing, where he can take you place to place. You have to pay a fair bit, but he could take you there. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying the game quite a bit. I'm 12, maybe 13 hours in now. I'm in the third region. The game is seemingly rather long, but I'm not getting bored, which is good. And I'm having a heck of a time choosing what fucking faction to go with. Like, it's not as clear cut or as like exposed to me as Fallout. Where like Fallout, it's like I know the factions. Like if I show up in Fallout like 5, right, in the future, if I show up in Fallout 5 and the Brotherhood's there, like I know who the Brotherhood is. Unless there's been like a radical change to them, like I know who they are, or at least who they were. Whereas this game, it's like I just can't remember what a lot of the people are. So like I'll like work with the powers that be, and then someone will be like, "You're a snitch." I'm like, "Oh fuck!" Like, "Oh damn!" Yeah. I was working with the powers that be. But there was I had this really cool experience in the game too, where this game's like I said, super desolate, super lonely, at least pre-patch anyway. And I did this mission, and in this, I think it was a cement factory, and I left the factory. And as I was leaving, I could just hear a helicopter. And I was like walking around. I was like, oh, that's kind of strange. And I was like, wait, hang on. Helicopter? No one's fucking driving out here. Who the fuck has a helicopter? And it's like this big, like scary, like, is someone coming here with a helicopter? But they ended up going somewhere else, and it changes the dynamic of the game. Also, I mean, this is a major spoiler. A major character that I used all the time was fucking murdered, and it was horrible. And it was because of me.
Oh,
I made a choice. I didn't realize it was going to put his life in jeopardy, and he was a crucial vendor, and that guy is fucking dead.
Matt.
And he's on my map, and there's a skull over his head.
Matt.
I didn't see his body, so God knows whether he's being held and being tortured or something horrible. I have no idea, but I do know that guy's gone, which is really unfortunate. But other than that, I did a little bit of the Apex. I think we got a win this week as well, which is cool. Did a bit of Apex and been digging the Call of Duty. I finished the event for the shotgun. And then Ryan, you and I tried zombies for the first time.
Oh yeah, Jesus. That was wild.
That was crazy. Like I haven't played it since probably World at War, or maybe one of the other ones very briefly.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
What?
I don't really recall. I recall playing zombies very briefly with you guys on another one of the games, maybe Black Ops.
You you played with the one with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
I absolutely don't know if that's true.
I swear you were with us on that one.
I remember playing one, and it might have been World at War still, but it was an expansion. Because like the World at War expansions started adding like the other maps, right? Like they started adding like the Juggernog machine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like because like Kino der Toten, which is the original map, which is just like you hold out, there's a mystery box and there's guns on the wall, and you're in like a torn down bunker. That game is totally different, or that map is totally different. That idea of zombies is totally different than what it is today. Like there's objectives now. They're drinking, these perk colas to give you perk and stuff like that, perks and things. There's just a lot going on in zombies now. And I played one with you guys that was like on like a glacier or on like a ship that was stuck on like a glacier or something.
Yeah. That was the Sarah Michelle Gellar one. That was Call of Duty Black Ops, the original.
Okay, so I've played that one with you guys maybe twice.
No.
And then yeah, because
I
got bored of zombies. I just played the crap out of it in World at War, and a lot of it was on Kino der Toten, and then I was just like, okay.
No.
Because the problem with it is it doesn't end. Like you and I experienced that.
Yeah, we had that one asshole who just was too good at the game.
Well, I wouldn't call him an asshole. Like you're not supposed to be dying, but
like it was getting late, and I wanted to get off Call of Duty, and he kept winning the rounds all by himself, bringing us all back to life. And we would die instantly because you start with your starting weapon.
Oh man, I was getting my actual ass beat on that match.
Therefore, asshole.
But I mean, the map is cool. This little story thing is cool. There's definitely a lot to be discovered. Like I found like a shed key. I don't know what shed it opened up and stuff. I was upgrading guns, and then we went into a different match, and that upgrade thing wasn't there anymore. So I don't know if it's moved or what it is. But it was pretty cool. I like that there's different levels. So we did the thing we got stuck on was we did the winter one, like the winter event one. Mm-hmm. And there's a starter like for beginners that want to do the story, and then there's sort of like a playlist for the more experienced as well. So we did the starter one, then the holiday one. I think I would stick with the starter one for a while if I went back, because there's like a round cap and I'm not going to die horribly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's actually been all I've been playing this week, I believe. Oh, no, that's wrong. It was given away on Epic Games, and I started playing that Return to Moria a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty fun, honestly. Like it's pretty interesting. You go through a map, and apparently there's a story mode. I'm not playing the story mode. I'm just sort of playing I guess it's procedural mode. And you basically are just like digging through Moria. So the different rooms will have like different cave-ins. And so you have to kind of like mine through them. And then you can, find resources, find chests, find new weapons, forge armor. Your base can come under attack. And there's different biomes, like there's an elven area, there's obviously the dwarven area, and then the goblins have dug their own area out. And we have objectives, so even though we're not in the story mode, we have these objectives where it's like, kill these 10 guys, kill that, kill this. And there's been so many times where we're like, man, what is this? And we like find an area, and it's like this huge grand tower or something, and we can climb up like 10 levels. So we're like, all right, we'll climb up. And we're like, we're climbing up, we're not digging down, this must be easier up here. And then we get to the top, and it's just like, oh my God, run. And it's like, what's happening down there? And then it's like an arrow comes out, shoots me in the head. I lose 90% of my health. I'm like, yup, run. And we're just like hauling our ass out of there, trying to make sure that if we die in a place that's not too far away from our base, so we can go get our bag. It's pretty crazy, but the game's pretty damn fun. I'm surprised it didn't catch on more.
Damn.
Yeah, pretty good, especially for free. What have you been playing, Ryan?
I have been working my ass off on getting Dragon Age The Veilguard finished. I've been playing as much as I possibly can.
And this is a stark difference from your I don't complete games thing of last week.
Yeah, because I got to start getting through some of this stuff. It's getting ridiculous. I am officially on my holiday break from work, though.
Oh, there you go.
So I can spend a little bit more time just throughout the day playing. But gosh, it's a big old game. But I know I'm getting to the end because a lot of my companion quests are completing and finishing up. And
yeah, you were saying that like a lot of the stories were seemingly ending, right? The different characters' stories.
Yeah, which is usually indicative of like, because you have to get, if you want all your characters to survive, you kind of have to complete their entire quest lines. It's optional, of course. But yeah, I'm probably not too far away from the end now. So gonna check that one off the list. Other than that, it's been like Marvel Rivals a bit, which I'm kind of cooling off on.
Already, really?
I just don't know if it's my kind of game, even though I play a lot of Overwatch. Just I'm not. I don't know. I'm not as drawn to Marvel Rivals as some of our other friends and stuff. And millions of other people have been playing it. Did I see it was 20 million people had played it already?
Something like that. Yeah. I think you had told us or sent us an article at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
But yeah, and the PlayStation party's dividing. I'm out playing Stalker. You guys are playing. Well, you were playing Marvel Rivals. Now one of you is playing Overwatch.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The fracturing begins.
The fracturing begins.
Yeah. I it's kind of why I've kind of been wanting a co-op game for us all to play at some point. It's been a long time since a lot of us have kind of, something like that. I always think back to The Division. Playing that with the four of us was pretty fun. I kind of miss that.
That would be cool. Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a lot of, like, you could even check, I was going to say check Game. Well, you could just still check Game Pass and see if there's a crossplay game for people who don't have Game Pass, because not everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be like a good place to start. Because, no, I guess, oh God, I was thinking like, man, well, there's a Division game coming out soon, and that was Heartland. Damn it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's about it. Call of Duty with you. Oh, Indiana Jones. Got some more Indiana Jones going too.
Hey.
That's a good old game. It's very fun, very enjoyable.
Wait a sec, you're quote unquote working your ass off on Veilguard, and you're freaking playing Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I got to. I'm not normally the kind of guy who will play two single player games at the same time, but now I gotta do double duty here.
How are you gonna do Star Wars Outlaws during this break?
I'm gonna say yes, but that's don't hold your breath.
Well, I don't mean beat. I mean, like, if you beat Dragon Age soon, like if you beat Dragon Age like before Christmas or like around Christmas, because you get like Christmas is weird this year because it's on Wednesday. So
I'll probably beat it this weekend.
Okay, so if you beat Dragon Age this weekend, I assume you get 2 weeks off. Is that correct or no?
Yeah.
Or do you go back to work on like the 2nd, which is a Thursday?
I took those 2 days off. I did have to go back on the 2nd, but it was like 2 days on the weekend. It's like, hey, no one's gonna be working those 2 days.
No, yeah.
So I took those off. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not doing that. So fair enough. So you get the full 2 weeks off. And I guess my question at that point is like you beat Star Wars or you beat Dragon Age like within the first week at some point. Would you boot up Star Wars Outlaws in the second week? Or are you leaning more toward like you're going to finish Indiana Jones or play something else, or like what are you doing? Like what are you thinking?
I forgot about Indiana Jones.
You just brought it up. What?
No, I know, but while you were composing that question, I was thinking, oh, my answer is Star Wars Outlaws is next on the list. But here's the problem: if I make Star Wars Outlaws next on the list, that puts Indiana Jones in jeopardy.
Well, what is it in jeopardy, or are you just going to be pulling double duty?
In jeopardy.
Indiana Jones would be in jeopardy, not Star Wars Outlaws?
If I go more than like 3 days without playing the game, it's in jeopardy.
That short a time, 3 days.
Yeah. And Indiana Jones is like on the edge.
Man, I left freaking RoboCop for a month. I've left Stalker for a week and a half. It's fine.
I wish I could do that. I wish that could be me.
I used to be similar to you. I don't think it was as strict as 3 days, but I used to be kind of similar to you. And then I just realized I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm here to chill with this game. Like, I'm here not to rush it. So
it's not a job. It's supposed to be entertainment. It's supposed to be, fun to do.
I did it with The Wire, which is, the TV show, not a game. And like, I left for weeks. I would leave for a month and be like, you know what? Like, I've seen enough, cop drama. I've seen enough crime stuff. Go watch something else. Come back and be like, all right, let's kick off another season. Watch 3/4 of the season. Be like, man, that was awesome. Leave for a bit. And every time I came back, it was awesome because it's like, man, because when I came back, it was always like, man, I could watch The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
I could watch The Wire tonight. I'm going to do that. And it was like something I look forward to rather than being like, what's on the ticket for tonight, man? Well, it's The Wire and Stalker too,
Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, I actually think I will probably beat Dragon Age this weekend. That's
a big one.
I am to being completed it. Gosh, there's a lot of treasure chests for like gear in that game, and like you see them on the map when you get close enough, but finding some of them is like a pain in the butt.
Are you completionisting? I don't know if that's
No,
right.
but I am contemplating a platinum trophy. I don't know if having to collect certain things is part of that, but it's just sometimes. So one of the crazy parts is like you'll see a treasure chest, or you'll see an area that you could explore that probably has a treasure chest.
Mm-hmm.
But you might not be able to access it when you see it. So you kind of waste like 5 or 10 minutes looking around trying to figure out how to access this thing, when the actual solution is to keep going forward with the quest you're on, and it will bring you back around to either a new entrance or an entrance will be unlocked to that area.
Oh, I kind of hate that.
Yeah, and it's really annoying. It feels like I'm wasting time trying to search for it when I wish it would just kind of not be there.
I mean, like, do what you want. If you want the platinum, you want the platinum. But again, one of those things I do at games too now is if I'm starting to get pissed off, like unless my goal is that platinum, I'm just like, all right, like fuck it, I don't care, I'm out of here. Like I'll just go and like I'll come back, if I want to, and rarely do I even remember.
Yeah,
to even come back.
100%.
Like it's just like, man, fuck this chest. Like it's one of the better things. One of the good things about Stalker is that like I need equipment. So like if I'm like, holy fuck, there's a storage room, I better figure out how to get in there because I need that friggin' ammo.
Right.
And those salami sandwiches, sausage sandwiches.
All right, that's it. We're streaming on twitch.tv/DamonPatchMedia Wednesdays 8 or 9ish. We're playing Atlas Fallen. I don't know when Tim's going to be back. But I'm enjoying Atlas Fallen. It's okay. It's an okay like AA game.
Tim will slip into my place, and you'll just end up restarting Atlas Fallen with him. Be like, hey, why are we loading into the intro area? And then it's just like it's actually Tim, but he's just on mute.
I will not be restarting that game. If we lose our save or something, I am not restarting that game.
I mean, I would agree with that. Yeah,
I don't got time for that. All right, thanks for listening, folks, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yo, happy holidays, folks.
That's right. Well, actually, we'll probably be off next week, right?
Honestly, it's a crapshoot. Last year we recorded on Christmas Eve.
Did we really?
We absolutely had a Christmas Eve special where we recorded on Christmas Eve.
What the heck?
Or it was last year or the year before, but it was absolutely recent. So,
or was it a pandemic one? Because we couldn't go out anyway or do anything. So
I honestly am not sure. I know Tim was there. Like I know Tim was on the show, but I think he was out doing something for his family or something like that. I again, this is years, like a year or more ago, so don't quote me on the deets. But I absolutely remember messaging you and being like, "Are we podcasting?" You're like, "Well, I'm around." And I was like, "Well, all right."
Okay.
So
that's
maybe,
wild, but yeah, okay.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right, see ya.
Yo, peace and happy holidays.